On the cutting edge of anomaly research, you are about to experience The Evidence with your host, 3D pioneer and image analyst with Mars X3D, DWG.
Well, hi there, and welcome to this special edition of The Evidence. This is your buddy Dave over Mars X3D. And before we dive into the very interesting anomalies and very special anomalies that I'm going to share with you today, you guys have been hammering me with emails about my new book, Martian Archaeology, Volume 1. And here's your answer. It's going to be coming out about a week before Thanksgiving. I expect to receive the first shipment at that time. And trust me, I will post an announcement as soon as I have them in my hands. Now this is a really beautiful edition because I have gone to considerable expense to use what's called Mohawk Superfine Eggshell paper. This is a premium matte paper to give you the absolute clearest image possible. And I'd like to show you one of the images that are included in my new book. And this is one some of you may be familiar with. It's called The Goblin. This was found in Curiosity 184, and it was pointed out by any number of researchers. But the reason I'm showing you this, well, let me answer this question first. Dave, why aren't you making an ebook? Why can't we get this online as a download? Here's why. Because in the digital realm, if I show you images that have no data bars, no copyright, no watermark, no other identifiers on them, inevitably someone steals it and uses it to profit by, really is what it bases. They just steal your intellectual property, which is why, not only for informational purposes, but for protected purposes, I composite my 3D images the way I do in the digital realm. But you know, in the book, that's not so much an issue. And so the images are completely without anything between you and the anomaly. And trust me, there are 24 jaw-dropping anomalies in this book, printed on superfine Mohawk super eggshell paper. Very expensive paper, but boy is it nice. And it gives such a nice, clear image. Anyway, here's an image called The Goblin that appears in my book. And you can see this is really a pretty creepy anomaly from Curiosity 184. And it was pointed out by any number of anomalists. I don't even know who the original discoverer was on this one. But the reason I'm showing you this is because my friend, Kim Carrier, was kind enough to send me one of his models, his 3D models of the various anomalies. And what he does is he takes these anomalies and he renders them as a 3D model, as either a 3D printer or in CAD/CAM, or sometimes he just models them himself, and he's obviously a very good modeler. So here is Kim's rendition of the Goblin. And these are very high quality, folks. This thing weighs about 5 or 6 pounds. It's solid stone. The anomaly is stone, cast stone, stone base, 2 stone bases, brass nameplates on the front, 1 on the back with a location, a citation link on it. And wow, I'm blown away. Wonderful quality. Kim is working on a website, and when he gets that website up, I will share it with you, and trust me, I'll stand in line to get some of his great models as well, because he does a really nice job. I think you'll agree. Okay, now on to our special episode, which is our RamiRAMA. Rami Bar Ilan is an elite anomaly hunter. He's been around for many, many years. And he has made very many very important discoveries over the years. And, you know, I'll explain some of the ins and outs of that as we get into the episode itself. But I wanted to take time to process some of his anomalies, which are quite complex. I won't bore you with details, but this is why it's taken me so long to get this episode up and ready for you. So I hope you enjoy it. Let's dive right into our RamiRAMA. You know, it's always better, in my opinion, if I can do the processing myself. That's not possible most of the time with Rami's work, because he only includes a sol number, never a citation link to the original image. That means going into the analyst notebook, finding the sol, and then combing through anywhere from 200 to 500 thumbnails looking for something that most of the time he's extracted at high magnification. Yeah, good luck with that. And so that's one of the reasons it takes me forever to do his discoveries, because I want to check them and do my own processing. This is the only one in this batch that I had any luck finding, and it's up there in the left-hand corner. I have never known Rami to falsify or misrepresent an image, so I'm pretty sure these findings in this episode are all legitimate. Anyway, this thing is crazy, isn't it? Looks like the side of a tank, almost. Of course, that's not what it is. It's only a couple feet long. But check out all the knobs and then that right-angled wall on the back left. And I like that recessed area in front with the perfectly straight line. It even looks like it might have treads, like a tank, but I think that's more imagination than fact. So my fallback position is to capture Rami's original post on Facebook and then work out the 3D from there. And I'm not whining, but it can get pretty complex at times with the frames and separate images, but hey, things are tough all over. Anyway, on the left, you can see that little red arrow pointing out what clearly looks like a cylinder, even from this distance. And on the right, we see that it is indeed a true cylinder, covered with markings all around its exterior surface. Are those tooling marks? Engraving, maybe? Notice how the rings are all parallel and the same width. Pretty strange erosion, right? And on the right side, we can plainly see that it's hollow. What gets me is that little cup-like thing sticking out from the lip on the upper right. If I could just see the original unprocessed image, I'd be able to make a better determination where that belongs in 3D space. I mean, it could just be a rock behind the cylinder. But based on the lighting angles, I went ahead and left it where it is for now, until I can see the original. This is one of the first screen caps I worked on, and I wasn't able to keep all the data on the frame and still make it 3D. Of course, my 3D skills have improved considerably since then because, in the interim, I was bitten by a radioactive spider. I'm fine now, and don't worry, I lose the colorful borders on the rest of the images coming up, but I felt at the time that it needed something extra since I had to cut some of it off. Okay, can you say Robo Ant? Sure you can. We have what looks like a large, maybe, 5 or 6 feet long, mechanized insect. Is that what it is? Almost certainly not. But anyone who calls this a rock has to be in serious denial. Why don't we move in for a closer look? As you can see, this thing has 5 sections to it instead of the ant's normal 3, if you remember your 8th grade science class. Of course, it is on another planet, so Maybe the paleo insects on Mars are gigantic, weird, metallic-looking critters. You can see that it has what looks like a leg on that rear segment. And of course, the head is definitely ant-shaped, with an eye, if that's what it is, in the right place. We can't see any mandibles on it. I don't know, maybe they're hidden in the shadow, or maybe they broke off, or maybe it never had mandibles at all. Who knows? If it is a defunct insect, it really seems a shame that no one got to it in time to give it antibiotics. This is a nice, clear, close-up view of what for now I'm calling a cannonball. Brian Hopjins pointed this out back in 2015. Again, without the context in which this was found, there's just no way to know the size of this thing. But you know, I like that glint of reflected sunlight at the top. It kind of gives the impression that this might be metallic, or possibly some kind of reflective mineral. We know that Mars is absolutely covered with what are called blueberries, little balls of hematite that seem quite happy to form in the conditions found on the red planet. And they can range in size, as far as I know, from millimeter-sized objects to maybe an inch or so across. So, this is probably a hematite blueberry and not a cannonball or ball bearing. But just so you know about the possibilities on Mars, here are a couple of really huge balls that I found a couple of years back. In this rather blurry context view from Spirit's rendering of the McMurdo site, you can see a large sphere inside the target area, bearing in mind that this is some distance away from Spirit's PanCam. So, up close, we can see a couple of chunks missing on the lower right. Is that the result of natural processes? Maybe. But where in nature do we find stone spheres 6 to 8 feet across? And here's another snag. We know that in archaeology, context is king. So what about that large cubical block 10 or 20 yards behind and to the right? Having two non-fractal items in close proximity is really testing the limits of chance. Let's take a look at another big ball. Here's another one from Spirit, this time a rendering of the Bonestell site. Besides the brilliant blue sky, which NASA resolutely said for years simply didn't exist, there's that big black ball inside the target area, again, quite some distance from the Spirit rover. I apologize for the relative lack of 3D. This was 3 years ago in my learning curve, and someday I'll redo all those early renderings for the gallery on my hoped-for website coming in 22. Anyway, this sucker is about 6 to 8 feet in diameter and reminds me of the gigantic stone balls found throughout Costa Rica. You can see one of those in the inset, and these mysterious spheres are like a giant's marble scattered across the hillsides and jungle of Costa Rica. They've baffled archaeologists for decades, and we're no closer today to figuring out who made them and why they were made. They haven't even gotten to the ones on Mars yet. Here's one found by researcher Michael Ivey back in 2015. All I can think of when I see this is a broken and twisted mechanism of some kind. We find artifacts like this scattered all over the Martian surface. This is another one where I spent way too much time trying to find the original. To me, the original is especially important when so-called faces or statues are involved. Much of the time, a careful study of the lighting debunks what folks might think be there. But, as with most of Rami's images, the original simply eludes discovery. What a wonderful tool citation is, right? This really looks like a devil, doesn't it? Eyes, nose, mouth, cheeks, forehead, and horns are all in the right place. So, what exactly do we have, and why the devil? Sorry about that. Are we finding something like this on Mars? Until I can study the original, I'm going to leave this one up to you and up in the air. We find what seem to be tools scattered about the Martian surface on a fairly regular basis. On the left, the red arrow points out what appears to be a pickaxe lying on top of the sand, with the head against a rock. On the right, the close-up shows something that, well, really shouldn't be on Mars. It'd be helpful if we also found the remains of the prospector's donkey and maybe the prospector himself. Maybe throw a couple of pans into the deal to seal it. That'd nail things down pretty good. But no such luck. Erosion, you say? Okay. Please explain how erosion creates a cylindrical handle, all the same width, all the same curvature, with a tapered tip on the close end, and then how erosion goes on to create a bilaterally symmetrical axe head of a different color, both ends pointed and lying at a perfect right angle to the handle. You know, when I was younger, I once pulled a muscle digging for gold, but not to worry. It was just a minor injury. And here we have what I'm calling a long spoon lying on top of a rock with a sharp 90-degree corner up on top. Even an amateur geologist can tell that whatever this is, it didn't erode out of the rock it's sitting on. So, here again we have a long handle of even thickness and curvature, and even sporting a handle on the left end. And that left end has a nice 45-degree angle cut right on the tip. The handle flares nicely into a kind of scoop, and I just have to wonder, is this a cooking implement that once belonged to a Martian Martha Stewart? Apparently, whatever it is, it was important to have a solid grip while using it. At least that's what the handle tells me. Take a moment to look at the blocks in the background and to the left. They look mighty suspicious to me. This is an interesting one, hiding behind the screen door effect NASA places on many of its images. I haven't been able to figure out yet whether that screen door effect is a result of data errors, processing constraints, or someone just forgot to open the porch door before snapping a photo. The image speaks for itself in terms of being anomalous, and again, without a citation link, it's impossible to get a sense of distance and size. So I'm not even going to speculate on that. But the lines and non-fractal angles are super clean, despite being blurred, and it's even possible that there's a line of holes just below the top edge of the side facing us. I almost left this one out because it's so darned blurry, but the shape of the skull, if that's what it is still clear. You get a little sense of the size and distance from the left image, and I think it's safe to say this is about the same size as a human skull. But on the right image, we can see that it's not human. We've got a nice round cranium, 2 eye holes where they're supposed to be, and what might possibly be a nose opening in the right place. But that's about it. I'd be willing to bet that this is another example of NASA keeping the high-res, unredacted photo for their classified files and dumping the screen door low-res JPEGs on the research community. It's either that, or they totally don't care about examining objects like this one in greater detail. And if that's true, that's a bigger mystery than any anomalous objects we've found to date. We've got a bit of a context view on the left side, outlining the object of interest sitting at the base of a rocky cliff. Even from this distance, we can see the distinct markings that cover its surface. I'd say conservatively that this slab is maybe 3 feet long and 2 feet high. The lower right image gives us the screen door mess that NASA gives us, and above that, a combination of Rami's and my own attempts to eliminate as much of the screen door as possible. We can see perfect circles, right angles, and a host of other raised figures covering the roughly rectangular slab. Is this perhaps a marker for, say, an entrance or maybe a burial? Was it part of a building exterior that broke off and tumbled to the base of the cliff over time? There's an old joke that goes something like this. I asked a NASA engineer what the biggest problem was at the agency, ignorance or apathy. He pondered this for a moment and then answered, "I don't know, and I don't care." We'll wrap up today's RamiRAMA with one of his most spectacular finds, what I'm calling a robot. You can see it in the raw image over on the right, and my guess would be that it's about 3 or maybe 4 feet tall. Once the dust cover is removed and color balancing is invoked, we have the image on the left. The head and shoulders appear to be made of brass or some other gold-colored metal, and I'm saying metal because of the way it's reflecting the sun, while the body appears to be gunmetal blue. Notice the markings and configurations of the visible surfaces. Then you have that big sphere on the bottom right, which almost looks like a drive cylinder with an axle coming out of the center left and connecting to the base of the robot. That's just speculation, of course, because the image isn't really clear enough to make a clear call. This is so clearly not a rock that it just boggles the imagination that NASA ignored it and rumbled away to take more pictures of the ground. Well, that's our RamiRAMA. I hope you liked it. I'll still be salting in his finds now and then, but I have a ton of anomalies to share yet from myself and from other researchers. There's an email in the description if you have something you'd like me to take a look at. And I'm currently backlogged about 6 weeks on anomalies you guys have sent me, so please be patient. I'm just one guy. Meanwhile, if you saw something you liked, please consider giving this video a thumbs up. It helps me know whether to continue this work. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell. And to all you proud weirdos out there, you know who you are. Stay safe and stay weird. This is your buddy Dave over at Mars X3D. Be well.